How to convert motivated sellers to a subject to deal. Guys, this is Rick Ginn, and this is part 4 of my series on subject to deals. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to talk to the sellers. We're going to walk through how to get these deals done, and then we're going to deal with a little role playing if you stick to the end. But before I get in it, do me a favor, make sure you smash that like button, hit that subscribe button to continue to receive the best information possible. Subject to is exactly what it sounds like. You are buying the property subject to the existing mortgage. So we've already gone into detail on why this would be a benefit for you, the wholesaler, to take over this deal, because there's little to no bank qualifying. You can leverage yourself without having to go through the monstrosities of dealing with bank underwriting. And the seller is selling a property that they traditionally can't sell because they're stuck with it and they can't afford the payment. What we are going to focus on is the conversion aspect. And I've done this so long, is I have 4 simple steps to walk you through it. And then at the end, what we'll do is walk through like a small role play. And I'll tell you the most common objections you're going to get on a subject to. Bear with me, let's jump into it. So like number 1, I'm talking to wholesalers for the most part, and we love what we do, but what you have to do is first is disqualify them from a regular wholesale deal. And what do I mean by that? It means go through your normal process of what you would as a wholesaler. And you're probably going to get to the point where there's not enough equity in the deal. They just owe too much on the mortgage and they don't want to make the payment anymore. And that's fine. Just make sure you shut the door on wholesaling, because some of people just skip it and go straight into the subject to deal. You want to let them know that reaching out to other wholesalers, they're going to have the exact same challenge. So walk them through the exercise. You'll learn more about them. You're going to learn more about the property, and it's going to walk you through that perfect funnel to a creative financing subject to deal. So number 1, we're going to disqualify them through our normal wholesale process. Step 2, we are now going to qualify them for a subject to deal. And this is actually really simple. The first information you have to get to decide to move forward is you have to get the loan information. I don't care about the loan number at this point. I don't even care about the bank name. All I care about is how much of a mortgage do you have, what's the monthly payment, and are escrows included. Escrow is just a fancy word, is when people don't have a lot of money to put down on a house, usually 10% or less. The bank requires them as part of the mortgage to escrow their insurance payment and their property taxes payment. And so what they do is they come up with this fancy formula and they make them prepay it monthly. So when the bill comes due at the end of the year, the insurance company makes that payment for them, which prevents the homeowner from having a surprise bill and not being able to afford it. And it allows the bank to make sure they can properly pay for their mortgage and they have adequate debt to income ratio to pay the true expenses on those houses. That's why you have escrow payments. Once again, escrow payments are going to include the mortgage insurance and it's going to include the property taxes. And that's it. Now, once you get that information, you should get it easily. If you get resistance getting this information, you most likely are not going to get a creative subject to deal. Let me repeat that. If you get resistance on getting the mortgage information, like I don't want to share the payment with you, I don't want to share the loan amount with you, your odds of getting a subject to creative financing deal are pretty slim. Why? Because part of this process requires them to 100% cooperate, because you need their cooperation to assume their debt. And to assume someone's debt without cooperation is a really, really bad mix. So I want you to understand part of the qualification process when you ask for this information is compliance. And if they fight you on it, I just move on. If you can't give me that information, like when we get down to the nitty-gritty paperwork, it's going to be even harder. Remember, on subject to deals, you usually need the seller's cooperation for multiple years after you buy the property to straighten out escrows, to straighten out final bills, forwarding of emails and mailing from the mortgage company, from the insurance company. The last thing you want to do is get into a combative situation, but we're going to save that a little bit more towards the end. So we've disqualified them from wholesaling. Now we've qualified all the mortgage information to see if the numbers fit for our formula. Remember, the key in this is getting the information. You can help them out, tell them where to go to get it. Most of them know it by heart. And the minute they start fighting you on this, be very aware and understand the deal's probably not going to work out. I've never done a creative financing deal where they fought me hard on this and got a deal. That's one of the big secrets to creative financing, is they've got to be extremely cooperative. They've got to look at you as a saving line. Let's move on to number 3. The next one I'm going to do is a little bit weird, but it works, is we are going to walk through what we call the failed options, meaning I'm going to walk them through some of their pain points, knowing they're not going to work out. But by doing this, and people call it like you're bringing in the white elephant in the room, just get it out there, because I'm going to show you why on the next step of why this works. Failed options. So now we're dealing with someone who probably bought the property less than 2 years ago. They probably put down a very small down payment and they can't afford the payments. So the first thing is, why don't you just list the house and sell it and sit back? And here's the key is, let them give you the answer, not you. So when they give you the answer, they're going to walk through the answer you already know. Well, the problem is, by the time I pay the realtors 6% listing, and then I pay the 3% closing cost, and then if they want to negotiate and all the fees with it, I got to bring like $20,000, $30,000 to the closing table, and I don't have it, Rick. Oh, yeah, okay. I can see how that makes sense. Okay. So why don't you just sell it without a realtor? Well, Rick, the best I could do is I'll probably bring $5,000 to $10,000 to the closing table. And then I got to have people parading through my house, and I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm not a realtor, and I don't want to do that. Makes sense. I agree with you. I think that's common sense. Well, have you ever thought of any other options with the house? Like, well, we thought about renting the house, but honestly, I don't think it's going to work out. I'm too nice of a guy, and I have no experience being a landlord. And honestly, it seems scary and intimidating, and it's not going to help out any of my financial situation. And I'm scared I'm going to come back through a bigger mess. Oh, okay. So now we're running out of options. You kind of see the path here. The last option is, why don't you just keep the house and have a family member kind of help you out and bail you out? He goes, well, that might work for a month or two, but I'm going to be right back in the same situation. And I don't like to depend on family to solve personal issues. Me and my wife have just decided it's best for us to try to solve this problem now. You see what I did? I walked him through, I think, 4 options here. And I already know the answers to all these options, because the key to doing any subject to deal is you have to close the door on any other options. What you're going to offer, you ready for this? Step 4, you have to be the only solution. That's right. Think about this. And I'm going to say it just like this with the seller, and I'm going to walk you through it. We're in step 4. You need to be the only solution. And that's the only way subject to works out. If you have to compete with realtors and renting the property, you're never going to win on that stuff. Most people don't want it, so just let them exclude them from those options. Can't use a realtor. I don't want to rent it. I can't keep it. Can't sell it on my own. What can I possibly do? And it's to the point like, do you have a solution for me? Because I've tried everything else. And I go, matter of fact, I do. And Mr. Seller, I tell you what, I see your mortgage payment and your balance of this. I'm not saying for sure I can do this, but if I could take over your payment, give you a couple $1,000s to get you moving money, to get everything moved and get you squared away, you and your wife, I'll be responsible for your mortgage payment. I'll make sure your mortgage gets paid off. I'm responsible for any maintenance and repairs. If we decide to work together, I can probably do this pretty quickly, because by taking over your mortgage and your payments, I don't have to qualify for traditional bank financing, which cuts out a lot of time and expenses. Is that something you'd be interested in doing, or you want to do something else? You see, by phrasing it like that, you are the only solution. That's how subject to works. You can't make someone do a subject to. You can't coerce them into it. You have to walk down every known path, and if they can't get a solution in them, this is where you come in. The only thing standing between you and a subject to deal is your confidence to deliver it. By simply saying, I take over the payments, I'll be responsible for the mortgage. Now we typically have some objections come up here. There's only a couple main objections. Number 1, Rick, how do I know you're going to make my payments on time per month? Remember that money I'm giving you up front and some of the repairs I'm doing to that property? That's like $6,000, $7,000 total, whatever it is. It's a made up number, but it's under 10K usually. Is if I don't make that payments, I'm going to lose out on all of that. So I would be throwing my own money away, and I cannot risk that. Number 2 is we can simply make the payments online where you can view it and you'll get an alert every month and it's sent. We automate this process. I want to put you at ease. You can easily check on it on any time. That way there's no issues for you doing that. Okay, that makes sense. What I'm telling you is I'm never going to let the house be foreclosed on, because I'm wasting my time and money if I do that, and that wouldn't make sense. So the last biggest objection you usually get is, okay, Rick, how long are you going to take over the mortgage for, and how soon can I go back and buy another property? So number 1, I never put an expiration on someone's subject to, because it's going to limit you. Unless it is a sticking point and you decide to do it, I would never take a subject to with less than 5 years for a payoff, because that means you got to refinance it or sell the property. If you don't make it a big deal, if they have 27 years left on the mortgage, Take the 27 years. Don't tell them you're going to cash out in 3 to 5 years, because it makes your deal less valuable in the long run and it gives you more options to deal with the property. They go, well, Rick, what if in 3 or 4 years, me and my wife want to go out and buy a house? That's great. We'll be happy to work with you. And since you already have a property in your name, I'll have your on-time payments made, which is going to really jack up your credit score. We're going to pay down the loan, which is really going to build up your credit score as well too. And you are going to be a very well-groomed customer for a new mortgage. What we need to do is, what I'll do is we'll provide the paperwork for our agreement. And it basically looks like a rental on your side. And with our paperwork, you're getting monthly payments. So if the payment's $700 and then my agreement with you is $900, however we do it, that rental agreement cancels out your debt to income ratio and resets your clockwork. Guys, this happens all the time. People have investment properties, and this is how you overcome them going out and buying another place and keeping that existing mortgage in place. Sometimes them having you cash them out of the mortgage is one of their big obstacles, and you'll have to make a decision. But I would never do anything less than 5 years, because it goes by very, very fast. 2 and 3 years is too short of a time, in my opinion. So unless you have a more advanced strategy, I would make sure you have 5 years, 60 months minimum. But if you don't make it a big deal up front, it's not going to be a big deal. Remember, you need 100% cooperation, because you'll have to help them if they wind up buying another house, providing them paperwork so they can give it to their loan officer to satisfy the debt of the previous house, which you took over subject to, and you see how this whole thing works. It's so important to understand how to convert these deals. And I want you to understand it is not complicated. Number one, you're going to disqualify them from wholesaling. Number two, then you're going to qualify them with their loan information. The key factor is they have to be cooperative. Number three, you walk them through all the failed options, and you already should know the answer to them. There's usually not more than 4. And then understand, number 4, you are the only solution. And once you're the only solution, you just pitch them saying, listen, if I can just take over your payment, what would that feel like? I'll be responsible for your loan. I'll be responsible for the maintenance. And then you deal with the objections that you come up. And then in the event they want to buy another house, you're going to help them settle their debt to income ratio by providing them paperwork so they can give it to a loan officer. Guys, that's 90% of your objections right there. They want to know that you're confident and you're going to do exactly what you're going to say you're going to do. And if you do that, you can go out and get a subject to deal. It could actually be your first wholesale deal. It doesn't matter. And these come up in wholesaling all the time. Remember, people have investment properties. They got vacation homes. Subject to is a great strategy to leverage real estate without using the bank's money and your personal credit. The question is, are you going to use it? So let me know in the comments if you're using subject to as a wholesaling strategy, and make sure you smash that like button. You hit that subscribe button to continue to receive the absolute best information on wholesaling today. Guys, this is Rick, and I'll see you in the next video.